Hello and welcome to a video on the Planet Zach YouTube channel. This one's for all the Animal Crossing fans out there. I don't get to put out nearly as much Animal Crossing content as I would like to simply because I have limitations on recording footage, but I thought I'd give y'all an update on the status of my island. I had hoped to finish it by the end of this year so that I could post it to the Dream Suite, and my goal is to eventually have a video where I show it off. But unfortunately, it's just not quite finished yet. It's going to take at least a few more months of playing the game regularly before I have all the items that I need. I want to compromise on my vision as little as possible. But I figured I'd at least reveal the island's theme and let y'all know about the villagers that are going to be there, because I'm pretty sure I'm happy with the villager lineup as it stands. So without any further ado, let's get into it. The theme for my island is storytelling, so it's a lot of fairy tales, but also a lot of science fiction and other stories that you might find in classic literature, film, and television. Let's start by going over the player characters. So the one that's highlighted with the little hand there, that's Macadamia. That's my main player character. He lives in the house in the back there. It's a giant Cinderella fairy tale castle. He is the prince of the castle, or maybe the king, depending on what you want to believe. And all of the rooms are mostly themed around Disney princesses or Disney movies. Secondly, we have my second player character, Xavier. He lives in that little pink house on the right edge of the map. I'm going to hopefully design a map that has the points of interest on my island kind of labeled and everything, that I'm hopefully going to release on Instagram when I go ahead and showcase my island. But we'll make do with what we have for now. So he lives in this pink house on the right here, and it's a one-room house, the largest one-room setup you can have, and I decorated it to be like an old-timey farmhouse. Kind of my take on cottagecore a little bit. There's a lot of green furniture. There's a lot of rustic looking pieces in the house. There's not a ton because I haven't really played that far with this character. I don't really play as Xavier a lot, but I like having him around in case I want to show off my own to somebody and they want to be able to walk around with me. That's mainly the purpose I have for having the second player character. And it was really helpful when I was babysitting some kids. I could just have them play as the two characters, and that was something really. The two-player system with one switch leaves a lot to be desired, I think. Moving on from the player characters, first up as my villager we have Camafrog. He was my first cranky villager, and he lives in the Tarzan treehouse. I really like Camafrog's design. He's pretty cool. For a while I had another frog, the one named Tad, and I thought Tad was freaking adorable, but he was a jock villager, which really bothered me. I think he would have done better as a lazy villager, personally. Like, I don't see why they would make a frog a jock. That makes no sense. They're not really that strong looking or anything, so that kind of bothered me, and I got some amiibo cards from GameStop and ended up going ahead and replacing him with somebody else. And just below Camafrog, we have Static, yet another cranky villager. One of the few personality types I can tolerate having more than one of, which I need to have at least more than one of two of the different types, because there's only 8 personalities and you have up to 10 villagers on your island. I had him as a campsite villager, and I quickly invited him to stay on my island. He ended up replacing Robin, but by some stroke of luck, I found her again on a mystery island and invited her. So I have both of them now. Static is kind of a surfer dude. He gives off surfer vibes, so he mans my beachside gift shop. Next up is Buck the horse. He's a jock villager. He was the first jock villager that appeared on my island, and I've just never felt the need to replace him. And he works perfectly for what I'm using him for. He's got a Western saloon with a Western vibe that I kind of didn't have until I was like, hey, he'd be perfect for that. And I was like, yes. Who doesn't love a good Western? So then we'll move on to Robin. She's my token snooty villager, and like I said, she got replaced by Static at one point, but then I went villager hunting and found her again, and I just think Robin is delightful. She's very pretty, and she's a nice little character. I don't mind the snooty personality all that much. I did have 2 of them at one point, and that was a little much, especially since the other snooty villager that I had was Opal, and they were almost identical between Robin and Opal. Like, their houses were almost exactly the same. They both had the same hobby. It was just too much. I wish there was a little bit more distinction between some of the personality types, because a lot of the time, if you've had one villager with a personality type, the other villagers are all kind of the same in that personality type. This is especially apparent in Happy Home Paradise. Robin runs the private couples retreat and spa on the left-hand corner of my island at the bottom. You'll see her house right on the beach. I figured that was a good spot for her, and her house always reminded me of a spa, so it seemed to be fitting. I have designed a lot of the villagers' homes, and I plan to design all of them. I won't make a ton of changes to Robin's just because I like how it is in its natural state, but I will make it so that you can tell that I actually designed it a little bit. There's a couple that I'm going to try to make sure the villager is home for the dream address so that you can visit the inside, but I will display all of them in the video where I go through my whole island at some point. Next up we have Annalisa, who was my first normal villager. She's very sweet and I like her Asian vibe, so I went ahead and gave her a little Asian bamboo garden with all the different things that come from those cultures. I'm sure I've probably misappropriated a couple of the things to Asian culture that weren't necessarily meant to represent that, but I hope you get the aesthetic and like the vibe. In terms of what she brings to the storytelling aspect, I imagine that she hails from some film like Mulan or maybe a Studio Ghibli film, something that's just nice and cozy. I know Mulan's not very cozy, but there's some wholesome moments in it. I kind of want her whole house to feel like a place you could stop in for a cozy moment or maybe a good night's sleep on a long journey. Next up we have Rocket, one of the more recent additions and my token sisterly villager. Don't tell anybody this, but Rocket is secretly the pink Power Ranger. I also think with a name like Rocket, she probably dreams of the stars. And her design also gives me Penelope Pitstop vibes from Wacky Races. So you'll see all of that reflected in what I've designed for her exterior and interior. Then we have Bianca with the peppy personality type. Peppy's not the worst personality type, it's actually one of my favorites. So I wouldn't mind having another peppy, but sometimes one peppy is enough, I think. I have tasked her with managing the Duck Pond Inn. I am really bothered by the fact that she is very clearly designed like a snow leopard, but since she has a tiger model, everyone just calls her a tiger, and it makes no freaking sense. I wish they would differentiate that a little more. I get not wanting to make a brand new model for that, but at least have the code reflect that she's a snow leopard and not a tiger. I mean, they made a distinction between bears and bear cubs. I mean, that's not really much of a distinction. Pretty lame if you ask me. Speaking of bear cubs, we've got Stitches! Stitches was actually one of the first few villagers that I saw in other people's videos, and from the moment I saw him, I was like, I want Stitches. I'm not very good at villager hunting though, it really is not my thing. But I got lucky and got a pack of amiibo cards at GameStop, and Stitches was one of them. It was a weird set because it wasn't a blind bag. It literally told me the villagers that were going to be in it. And so I got Stitches, Rosie, and Goldie. And I like Rosie, but I haven't decided to put her on my island. But I really like Stitches a lot. He's a carnival prize in one of the sections of my island that looks like a carnival. It's based on Season 3 of Stranger Things, so hopefully y'all will get a kick out of that. He lives in a combination prize counter and snack bar, which I think would be the perfect place for a villager to live if they're a lazy personality type, and Stitches really fits with that. So then, next up we've got Hippo. And you can keep your Stinky Raymond. I like Hippo better. I don't really care for Raymond's design. Hippo is a very nice smug villager. He was my campsite villager, and we've been besties ever since. And then lastly is another newcomer, Goldie. Goldie was actually the villager that I had as my first villager in Pocket Camp for the brief stint that I played that. After I realized there wasn't a lot of space to put all the awesome furniture that you could possibly get, I got very bored of it. But it did unlock some neat items in New Horizons, so that was nice. But she was another one of the amiibo cards that I bought, and I really liked her, so I added her. And what better fitting villager for an island that involves fairy tales than Goldie? She's my little Goldilocks. I have the 3 bears having a picnic outside of her house, and I haven't decided what I'm going to do with the inside or if it'll be accessible in the dream, so I have a lot to think about. But it'll probably involve things that are too hot, too cold, too small, and just right. And with that, I have finished talking about my villagers. I hope you think they're as awesome as I do, and I will continue to work diligently on my island until I feel like it's ready to become available to the public. You can actually visit my dream, but it's several months old at this point, and a lot of stuff has changed. I had all the houses in one area before, and now they're kind of scattered everywhere, as you can see from the map. The waterways are probably going to stay the same. Some of the paved and elevated areas may change just depending on what new design idea I come up with. I'm trying to have fewer new ideas, because it makes me have to move a lot of stuff around, but I'm pretty happy with where things are for now. There's just 1 or 2 additional areas I want to try to fit in somewhere, so that'll be good. And there's just several items, a lot of them are from special characters and things that I just haven't been able to get my hands on yet, so I need a little bit more time for all of that. Especially since 2.0 added so many new items. Like, there are a ton of DIY recipes, and I hadn't even finished all of them by the time the new ones were added. So, just be patient with me, and I hope to upload the video of my island at some point. I'm not going to put any kind of timeline out. I'm just saying this is where my island's at now. This is the villager lineup. It's probably going to stay basically the same. And I hope you enjoyed me rambling on about my island and my villagers for a while. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.